Now I'm getting ready to install the fascia. So the first piece that I need to install is this piece, okay? That wraps around the little eyebrow that we made. And I'm gonna just hold it in place and make a mark on the back side to show me where my bend needs to be. Okay, I'm gonna draw a line right where my mark was. Okay, this line is a little bit more accurate because I'm using a square. And it has to be square. If it's not square, when we bend it, it won't fit around the corner straight. It'll actually go downhill or uphill. So we've got our mark. I'm going to transfer that right up the side here. Because I need to be able to see that on the front. Go right over the edge so that I can see it. Okay? I'm going to take another square. This one's a little bit easier to manipulate. And make that mark back to the back corner. So when I cut this, I want to cut a miter from that point out to this edge. And this is going to be a true 45, so I can just use this combination square to make my mark. Okay, now experience shows that in order for these pieces to fit together, you need to actually cut a little bit bigger than 45, so I'm actually going to come out here past my mark a little bit, and I'm going to cut right to the end of my mark. Okay, now it makes a difference which pair of snips you use because we're going to actually fold this piece underneath the miter so that this will be our backup and we don't see a crack. Okay, we can't ever cut a miter and have it fit. So I'm going to actually, you notice how this blade is pushing that piece down and it's pulling this one up. That's what I need. If it was the other way around, I'd have to switch the snips that I'm using. And then I'm going to come over here. In order for this to bend, I've got to get rid of this piece. Okay? And I always overcut about 3/16 of an inch or so that when I bend it, I can overbend it and get a nice sharp corner. So I'm going to cut right into that mark. And remove that piece of metal. And then I'm going to take it over to the brake to bend it. I'm going to insert this into the brake. It's probably a good idea to have somebody help so that they can run the other end of the brake while you're down here. Get the handles down. Get that right on the line. And then clamp it. Okay, once you're satisfied that it's where it needs to be to bend it, we're going to bend it, but you have to make sure that these two pieces don't hit each other. Now this one needs to fold inside of the other piece. So best if you have someone helping you to make sure that it goes where it's supposed to. Okay, so now we have our piece bent. You notice on the back side, the miter is showing. That's what we want. We want it to look like a miter. And this piece backs it up. Okay, when we get that right at a 45-degree angle, this will be right in our slot. So to make this fit even tighter, we're actually going to open the hem with our gasket scraper and we're going to tuck this inside of it. So I'm inserting the gasket scraper to open up that hem. Being careful not to damage it. Then I'm going to just open this back up and let it slide right into that opening. So now it's actually held together so that it can't shift. And we have a really nice corner. Now we're going to take our piece, we insert it behind the J channel. It should overlap the 3/8 or 1/2 inch J for the soffit. And holding it tight against this corner, we're going to mark the length that it needs to be trimmed. And we need to trim it so that it's exactly even with the subfascia over here. Okay, I've just extended my mark so that I know where to cut it. And I'll transfer that up the back. You gotta be, with this square, you've got to be careful that you don't mark behind the square. Now we're going to cut along our line. Okay, that should be ready to, almost ready to install. We still need to cut the corner off to the slope of the roof. So I'm putting this back exactly where it's going to be. I need to make sure that it's tight up against the soffit, all the way around, that it's tight over this way. Now I'm going to mark. Notice I've just put it in front of the drip and the shingles, but I can see exactly where I need to cut it. So I'm going to mark right here and here. Trim that corner off, and it'll fit right behind the drip edge. So I've made my mark. I just need to trim along that line. Remember, this on the left, this side is the waist. So you can curl it up out of the way as you're making your cut. And that's finished. So now we can install it. Okay, when I slide this up in place, remember we installed our drip edge with a little bit of clearance underneath so that this could fit behind it. So now we're going to slide that up right behind the drip edge. Make sure that it's tight. Okay, I already checked to make sure there was no screw in the way of putting a screw right here. It needs to go in the V groove so that it doesn't just smash the metal. I'm starting it with scratch all so that I'm less likely to slip off the head and cause damage. The worst thing that you can do is over tighten this screw. So we want to make sure that, you can see how it's pulling away. You need to back out. It's going to do that until I pierce the other piece of metal. Okay, so I'm through the other piece of metal. I'm going to back off, and then I'm going to put it in. It's really important to stop as soon as the screw touches the metal. If you over tighten it, it'll pucker the metal. It'll actually make a ripple on the face, and we don't want to do that. So over tightening is the worst thing you can do. And we're going to come in the middle of this piece, come in the middle here. Start another hole and put another screw in. Just make sure it's tight against the front. And as soon as it touches, we stop, okay? Looks good.